You don't need a weapon to break someone's will. You don't need fists or chains to shatter a soul. The most lethal form of domination is invisible. It resides in your mind, in the spaces where feelings govern decisions. Control doesn't come wrapped in threats or violence anymore. It's cloaked in smiles, masked in tears, hidden behind words designed to confuse and trap you emotionally. Because once someone holds your emotions hostage, they own your actions. They own your silence. They own your surrender. From the moment you took your first breath, you were taught that feeling deeply was noble, that compassion was your strength. But the cruel irony is this: the more you feel, the easier it is to control you. Empathy, care, love, these are the very chains forged to keep you tethered, predictable, exposed. Every time you allow your heart to lead, you hand over the map to your vulnerabilities. And the world? It has never been kinder to the open-hearted. They will weaponize your kindness. They will disguise manipulation as concern. You will see it disguised in guilt, wrapped in sorrow, delivered with a smile meant to disarm. When logic fails them, they do not give up. Instead, they escalate the emotional pressure. Because emotion bypasses the mind's defenses. It crashes through reason like a tidal wave, pulling you under before you even realize what's happening. The moment you hesitate, the moment you question yourself, you've lost ground. They've already infiltrated your mind, setting the stage to betray your own interests. This isn't weakness, it's strategic domination. And the most vulnerable are not the cruel or the callous. They are the ones who respond first, who forgive too easily, who give love without boundaries, who shed tears for those who would not spare them a glance. This is the paradox of emotional power. Softness is sold as virtue, but in reality, it's a liability. Strength is found not in surrender, but in restraint. Not in coldness, but in control. You must become the master of your emotional domain. Not by suppressing what you feel, but by refusing to let your feelings dictate your decisions. Emotions are tools, nothing more. You wield them. They do not wield you. Because when you lose control, you become a puppet. You find yourself apologizing for setting limits, justifying choices that protect your boundaries, agreeing to things you secretly despise. Your emotions make you predictable. They map out your weaknesses in plain sight. You will bend rules to avoid conflict. You will betray your own values to maintain peace. This is not honor. It is captivity. Those who prevail are the ones who know when to engage and when to withdraw. They smile through the betrayal. They walk away from tears crafted to entrap. They hold silence like armor amid chaos. This is not cruelty. This is freedom. The world will always test you. It will prod your emotional triggers, hoping to provoke a reaction. The second you break, you become readable, manipulable, conquered. But when you respond with calm, with stillness, with calculated neutrality, you become an enigma. They panic. Their emotional weapons shatter because you no longer dance to their tune. This is true power. Not the power to dominate others through force, but the power to remain untouchable through control. When you stop craving approval, stop fearing judgment, stop carrying guilt that isn't yours, you ascend beyond the reach of emotional tyranny. You become an island in a sea of storms, isolated, yes, but unbreakable. Yet most will never find this edge. They are too busy drowning in feelings designed to drown them. They are trapped in a cycle of reaction, justification, and self-betrayal. This is why detachment is not a betrayal of feeling. It is a reclamation of self. Manipulators don't need truth. They need access to your mind through your heart. They seek the fracture lines in your emotional armor. They need you to doubt your own reality so they can step in as the architects of your confusion. The moment that doubt settles, your autonomy fades. You become a ghost haunted by someone else's narrative. That's why detachment is your strongest shield. Not indifference, but a deliberate refusal to surrender your emotional sovereignty. You still care. But your care is a controlled resource dispensed with intention, not exploited as a currency to pay off their demands. You stop letting empathy become a leash wrapped around your neck. Because most performances of pain are just that, performances. Manipulation dressed in tragedy. And even genuine suffering is never your burden to bear alone. You are not the healer of everyone's wounds. To believe otherwise is to accept slavery disguised as sacrifice. People wield their pain like weapons. They cry on your shoulder, then stab you in the back. They parade their scars as justification for crossing every line you set. And if you resist, if you push back, suddenly you are the villain. The cold-hearted monster, the unfeeling betrayer. They don't care about what's right or just. They care only about power control over your choices, your mind, your peace. And empathy, their perfect tool, binds you. Once they capture your sympathy, they own your narrative. You hesitate. You excuse. You allow the cycle to continue. Every one more chance feeds their leverage, sinking hooks ever deeper. This isn't connection. It's parasitism. You become a reservoir of chaos, drained of energy, hope, life. All for a debt you never agreed to pay. This is why emotional detachment isn't cruelty. It is clarity. It is the sharp dividing line between those who live for others and those who live for themselves. When you detach, you see the difference between true pain and weaponized suffering. You recognize who wounds themselves and who wounds you. You stop reacting and start observing. You stop sacrificing and start protecting. You learn to walk away from people who refuse to grow, who thrive on your collapse, who drag you down while pretending to need saving. This evolution is not a loss of empathy, but the birth of strength. You can feel deeply and still refuse to respond to every call for rescue. You can hear the story and still walk away. You can hold space for pain without becoming trapped in it. Because some don't seek healing. They seek control. They survive on chaos and destruction. They hunt the empath because they know that empath will break themselves trying to fix someone else. This is the trap. The game. And without mastery of detachment, it is a trap with no escape. You will keep bleeding for those who would not bleed for you. You will keep feeding fires that consume your soul. Your goals will decay, your spirit erode, your life pass by in a haze of exhaustion. This is what happens when empathy has no boundaries. You become a tool, a sponge, a servant. But when you set boundaries, when you guard your empathy, you become something rare, an empath with a backbone. And that terrifies manipulators. They cannot guilt you. They cannot shame you. They cannot control you. You become emotionally invisible. You are no longer a target, but a fortress. And when they lose control, they reveal themselves fully. Their masks fall away. Their lies are laid bare. They are left exposed, naked, in the silence you create. This is your victory. Not loud, not vengeful, but absolute. You owe no one your peace. You owe no one your energy. You owe yourself protection, clarity, freedom. You were never meant to be drained or used. You were meant to live fully, freely, and untouchable. They don't need weapons to break you. They only need your reaction. But you have learned the art of emotional warfare. You don't fight on their battlefield. You don't respond to their traps. You hold your silence like a blade. You are not emotional currency for their ego. You are not a mirror for their distortions. You are a force beyond their reach. How do you become this force? First, recognize the bait. Guilt, shame, pity, flattery, passive aggression, these are not conversations. They are attacks disguised as words. When someone says, "After all I've done for you," they're planting a trap. When they claim, "No one else would care like I do," they are holding a leash. Don't absorb. Observe. Hear the words, but let them slide past your mind like water off stone. Second, stop explaining. You owe no justification to those who seek to manipulate. Every explanation you give is ammunition. True concern doesn't require defense. Starve them. Refuse to engage. Build boundaries as unmovable as mountain walls. Third, reclaim your power. Your emotions belong to you alone. No one has a right to barter with your peace. You are not cold. You are clear. You are strategic. Feel when you choose. Cut off when you must. This is precision, not apathy. When you refuse to respond, the game ends. They scream into silence. They throw tantrums into empty rooms. They test you and find only stillness. That is when the spell breaks. The illusion dies because manipulators live off your energy. Without it, they starve. You do not need them. You never did. Being emotionless is not becoming robotic. It is becoming unbreakable. Stay vigilant. Stay detached. If you are ready to shatter the chains they have wrapped around your mind and heart, then rise. This is psychological warfare, and you are the last battlefield. You might wonder then, why so many choose the path of suffering over strength. Why do they willingly chain themselves with guilt, loyalty, and endless explanations? Because society teaches us that vulnerability is virtue, that suffering proves worth. But this is the most dangerous lie of all. It is a trap set to keep you enslaved, not enlightened. True virtue is not found in sacrifice that drains your soul. It is found in preservation, the preservation of yourself, your mind, your essence. You have been taught to seek connection at any cost, to prioritize others' comfort above your own sanity. This teaching sounds noble until you realize it is a subtle form of submission. It convinces you to tolerate the intolerable, to accept betrayal as love, and to wear exhaustion like a badge of honor. The weight of others' emotions becomes your burden, their chaos your prison. But what if the noblest act was to refuse? To refuse to be the scapegoat for their unresolved pain, to refuse to feed their insatiable hunger for control? What if your first loyalty was to yourself, to your freedom, your clarity, your peace? This is the revolution few dare to wage because it demands a fierceness most lack. The path to emotional sovereignty is paved with ruthless honesty. Not with others, but with yourself. Admit that you cannot save everyone. Admit that some people will never change. Admit that your empathy is a resource, not a limitless ocean. These admissions are your first weapons. Because there is no growth in codependency. There is no peace in chaos masquerading as love. There is only decay. The decay of your boundaries, your confidence, your spirit. You must recognize that your role is not martyr or victim, but warrior. The warrior who defends the sanctity of their inner world against invasion. This defense requires clarity about who deserves access to your emotional landscape and who does not. Every relationship you maintain is a contract often unspoken, and it demands terms. When these terms are violated repeatedly, it is not weakness to sever the ties. It is wisdom. It is survival. The most difficult part is not the act of detachment itself, but the internal confrontation that precedes it. You must face your own fears, fear of loneliness, fear of judgment, fear of being perceived as harsh or uncaring. These fears are echoes of the very chains you are meant to break. To walk away is to defy those fears and stand firm in your right to self-preservation. Emotional detachment is not absence of feeling. It is the presence of control. It is the choice to no longer be moved by every gust of emotional wind that blows your way. This does not mean you shut down. It means you filter, discern, and respond on your own terms. You become the gatekeeper of your emotional kingdom. In this kingdom, guilt has no throne. Shame is exiled. Manipulation is recognized and swiftly removed. Your empathy becomes a gift, given selectively, valued deeply, but never exploited. This is the mastery of emotional sovereignty, the crown you place upon your own head. The world will push back. It always does. Those who thrived on your chaos will call you cold, accuse you of betrayal, or even abandon you first. This is their weakness revealed, their desperation exposed. Because nothing terrifies a manipulator more than the loss of control. Your detachment becomes their unraveling. And you will find in this unraveling a strange freedom. Freedom from endless battles, from second guessing, from the exhaustion of trying to fix what was never yours to fix. You reclaim your energy, your focus, your time. You become the architect of your life, no longer a casualty of others' emotional warfare. But do not confuse this with isolation. True detachment allows connection, but on your terms. It enables you to build relationships grounded in respect, honesty, and mutual care, not need, obligation, or manipulation. These connections nurture you, not drain you. This transformation requires patience and discipline. Emotional mastery is not achieved overnight. It is forged in countless small victories: the refusal to respond to a guilt trip, the choice to walk away from drama, the boundary firmly drawn and respected. Each act of self-respect strengthens your armor. Each moment of clarity deepens your sovereignty. There will be moments of doubt, moments when old patterns tempt you back into submission. This is natural. The comfort of familiar chains is a powerful siren. But remember, the price of comfort at the cost of your soul is too high. Your growth demands discomfort. Your freedom demands sacrifice. You must learn to sit with discomfort without surrender, to feel pain without allowing it to dictate your choices. This is the essence of emotional discipline, the discipline that distinguishes the free from the captive. Consider the power of silence. It is one of the greatest tools in emotional warfare. When you refuse to respond to provocation, when you hold your ground in stillness, you create a void that is unbearable for the manipulator. They depend on your reaction. Without it, their power evaporates. Silence is not weakness. It is strength. It signals that you are untouchable, that their games no longer penetrate your defenses. In silence, you communicate far more than words ever could you communicate control. You will notice how the manipulators escalate when met with silence. Their fury, their lies, their desperate pleas all intensify. This is the panic of losing control. Stand firm. Do not engage. Their noise is the death throes of their influence over you. Another crucial aspect of this mastery is the cultivation of self-awareness. To defend your emotional sovereignty, you must first understand yourself deeply. Recognize your triggers, your weaknesses, your patterns. Only then can you dismantle the mechanisms that manipulators exploit. Self-awareness is a form of power, the power to anticipate attacks before they land, to recognize falsehoods before they take root, to choose your response rather than react blindly. It is the light that exposes the shadows where manipulation hides. Alongside self-awareness, cultivate detachment not just from others' manipulation, but also from your own emotional reactions. This is not suppression, but observation. Watch your emotions like a scientist watches an experiment with curiosity, distance, and control. This perspective allows you to dissect your feelings, understand their origins, and decide which deserve expression and which should be contained. It is the difference between being a slave to emotion and being its master. Remember, your emotional life is your responsibility. To blame others for your feelings is to relinquish your power. You control how you interpret, how you react, and ultimately how you heal. Healing is not a linear path, but a continuous process of renewal. It demands that you clean your emotional slate regularly, removing residues of pain, resentment, and self-doubt. This cleansing keeps your defenses sharp and your heart clear. In the aftermath of detachment, you may face loneliness. But understand this loneliness is not emptiness. It is a sacred space, a crucible for rebirth. Within it, you reconstruct your identity free from toxic influences and false loyalties. Use this space to nurture yourself, to rediscover your passions, your values, your purpose. It is here that you build a foundation so strong that no manipulation can shake it. Do not fear this solitude. Embrace it as a necessary stage of transformation. The strongest warriors are often those who have stood alone and emerged unbroken. In the end, emotional mastery is not just about defense, it is about creation. Creating a life where your choices are guided by wisdom, not manipulation. Where your connections are built on respect, not control. Where your peace is guarded fiercely, not sacrificed cheaply. This mastery makes you a rare force in a world hungry for control. It makes you an enigma wrapped in calm, a fortress of silence amid chaos. It is the power to live untouchable, unshaken, unbroken. And with this power, you rewrite the rules. You no longer play by the game of emotional warfare. You create your own game, one where you hold every piece, every move, every outcome. Because the ultimate power is the power to choose. Choose detachment. Choose sovereignty. Choose freedom.